Politicians, he asked naively. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or hockey, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. No, I'm not getting into party politics. I don't ever do that. But there are people who have more of a say than others in our society. And if I'm going to continuously use the term civic institution to describe the Pirates, then, these things can actually come into play. The Pirates, for anybody who doesn't know, are 143 years old. They're older than our symphony. They're older than our libraries. They're older than almost everything in Pittsburgh that still exists. They hold a special place, a legitimately special place in not just our city's past, but our city's present and, of course, our city's future. So if you want to get mad about, David Bednar blowing some saves or a Derek Shelton lineup or a Ben Cherington trade, or even, for that matter, a Bob Nutting payroll limit, and, of course, all of the losing that's happened over the past 40 years, you have to do it in the context of the overall existence of the team. Meaning, all 5 World Series championships, all 7 World Series appearances, all 13 names that are in the Hall of Fame under the Pirates banner, under the legacies, the individual legacies of Honus Wagner and Roberto Clemente, 2 of the biggest names the sport will ever know. I started a hashtag on Twitter a few years ago, the last time Nutting refused to fire a management group that was, richly deserving of being fired. It was hashtag our team, not his. Got misunderstood on purpose by some people as being a sell the team thing. It wasn't. Not at that time. It was my way of reminding everybody that for the team to be run properly and appropriately, that only the owner of the franchise could make the moves that needed to be made. Eventually, Nutting did make those moves. This time, it's different. It's different for me. It's different for, very obviously, a lot of people. It's been 5 years of abject failure, all under the same management, whether it's off the field, on the field, all the same people. And Nutting's response to this has been a collective shrug and complete silence. And that's not okay. Not with me, not with a lot of people. And enough's enough. And it's not just my stance that's moved toward sell the team. It's now pretty common, I'd say. But saying it, even protesting it, starting up online petitions for people who don't live around here and feel like they want to do something, buying billboards, which is another thing that's come up somewhere. I'm not sure exactly from whom or to what degree, but I've heard that. The natural follow-up to that is, how can you make that happen? How can anyone make that happen? Now, the correct answer to this is you can't, meaning you can't forcibly oust someone from ownership, unless, of course, they do something egregiously wrong or criminal or whatever, in which case Major League Baseball can do that. That ain't happening. Okay, scratch that one off the list for all eternity. Stop waiting for MLB or the MLB Players Association to be the cavalry here. It will not happen. I can explain that in 2 words. Oakland Athletics. You've seen what's happened out there, infinitely worse than anything in Pittsburgh, and nobody's doing a thing about it. They sure won't do anything about this, which is why I've said a million times, this is a Pittsburgh problem. It has to be handled in Pittsburgh by Pittsburghers. But some of those Pittsburghers also happen to have some authority, some more than others, some more effectively than others. And the Pirates, as an organization, as a company, are beholden to various branches of government as it is in existing contracts and relationships. They do not own PNC Park. An entity known as the Sports and Exhibition Authority does that. That's a government authority. It's a government body. The Pirates pay rent to that authority. It's only $200,000 a year, but they pay rent and they don't own it. In fact, they have a lease coming up in 2030, and there will undoubtedly be all kinds of dialogue about this and that and how the authority and the government should pay for this improvement or that improvement or extending the lease or whatever. And that's where the government can and should this time around either install stipulations that would never be agreed to by any sports owner, least of all nutting, about spending competitively and so forth, or do everything you can to get rid of him. Do everything that you can to chase him out. Simplify the conversation. Simplify the objective. And let me state right here and right now in all capital, dazzling neon letters, the Pirates can't be moved. There's nothing that irks me more in any of the talks that anybody has around here on this subject than, oh no, what if he just decides to move the franchise? He can't. He can't. The Pirates cannot be moved. We are so far past any concept of the Pirates being moved that it should never come up. Depending on how one interprets the history of the National League, the Pirates are the second oldest franchise in baseball behind Cincinnati. You don't move that. That's like the NFL moving the Green Bay Packers. Not going to happen. You don't move the franchise of Clemente when the entire league celebrates a Clemente Day, and only the Pirates get obvious special treatment on that day with their players wearing number 21. You don't move that franchise. Never mind the more obvious and down-to-earth element that any time the Pirates have put an even remotely competitive product on the field, PNC Park's been packed. And that the Pirates have gotten great ratings. So you can throw Oakland out the window. You can throw Tampa Bay out the window. You can throw any other examples that you want to out the window. The Pirates are not ever going to be moved. That one needs to just stop. It's stupid on top of everything else, which would tell you that the government entities here would have more leverage in this setting than they would in most places. And if they, like a lot of other people, principally you, make things uncomfortable for this owner, and he has someone or multiple someones offering him $1.5 billion as a one-time payment. Another dumb thing I hear all the time. Why would he sell? He's making millions. Why? Because he could then make billions. It just has to be something that he doesn't want to do anymore. When we come back, J1Q.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragechek.org. That's gunstoragechek.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Hugh, who says, DK, from little acorns, mighty oaks grow. As the public protests get bigger, the financial value of the Pirates will drop. Bob Nutting better sell while the franchise is worth more than $1 billion. Of course, if he cleaned house again right now, the protests would probably stop. Sell the team, Bob. Hugh, there's a couple of things that you brought up there that are worth expounding upon, I'd say. One is, if he cleaned house again, the protest would probably stop. I mean, that's what happened in 2019. There was a lot of buildup there. And in that case, a good percentage of it was me. I don't think it is this time. This one, in every case and example I can cite, is happening with, I'm not aware of any of it. Whereas back in 2019, I was doing the hashtag that I mentioned and so forth. But you're right to recall, presuming this is what your intent was with that statement, that in 2019, as soon as Nutting went and fired everybody all the way up to Frank Coonley, that everything just, all of it, including my own. I stepped back and said, hey, I was calling for him to fire them all as I was writing for months. And guess what he did? He fired them all. So that was it for me. If there were to be a press release later in the day that says that, Ben Cherington's gone, Derek Shelton's gone, everybody's gone, my feel is that the overwhelming sentiment would be, okay, yeah, what about you, Bob? But my further feel is that you'd be right. It would die down. And my other point that I have to what you said is about, if there were protests or if the team were unpopular, or the management were unpopular, that it would somehow lower the value of the franchise. It would not. It would not. Sports teams are a funny thing, man. Regardless of where they are, big league sports teams, and including, soccer worldwide, there aren't that many of them. Whereas there are a ton of people who have a ton of individual wealth. And for whatever reason, a lot of wealthy people like having these things. They like having them as ornaments. Or in some cases, if you look at Fenway Sports Group, companies or conglomerates that like collecting sports teams and then finding ways to create some sort of biosynergy between them where certain things that they see, rightly or not, as being overlapping jobs, they'll try to condense that. I know that the FSG people have done a lot of that, probably too much of that, with the Penguins, where they've fired some pretty good Pittsburgh people and replaced those people with Boston people who were already doing the same thing for the Red Sox and some of their other teams. But that's who the buyers are. That's how this works. Having just covered the recent sale of the Penguins to FSG and having gotten a lot of information on how that went down, I can tell you that there were several suitors for the Penguins, and it took a real stepping up on FSG's part to get the sale done at $900 million. Now, every baseball team is worth more than every hockey team. And the reason for that, I would hope would be obvious, is television contracts. So you can start the Pirates off, I think, at a rock bottom base sale price. Absolute lowest thing is at $1 billion. Now, add to that the history of the franchise, the history of the city supporting the team when they don't suck, the phenomenal caliber of the stadium, the fact that the stadium's lease is up soon enough that whatever changes you'd want to make as a new owner, you're almost certainly going to get significant cooperation, meaning from those aforementioned governmental entities. And I'm probably taking all of this right now and stretching it into too many hypotheticals. You get the idea. You get the idea. All that has to happen here is people need to pipe up. That's it. This isn't complicated. People from all kinds of positions, all kinds of walks of life. And in the year 2024, when everybody can communicate with everybody, really shouldn't be that much of a challenge to get it together. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. Going to do one more of these tomorrow to wrap up the week.